golf and the PGA Tour, and here's what Jeff Price has to say. He's referred to as the CCO of the PGA Tour, which of course you're not.
We're not. We're the PGA of America.
So explain the difference to people that
Sure.
are not golf fans.
So PGA of America is 28,000 PGA professionals. The tangible connection between the people who play the game and learning it and having fun with it and at your local facilities, your local clubs, along with running some of the greatest events in golf, the Ryder Cup, the PGA Championship, the KPMG, Women's PGA Championship, the KitchenAid Senior Championship. Those great events on a global stage, along with the teaching, the coaching, the playing, the business of the game. We are an organization that lives and breathes golf at every level. Obviously, our sister organization, the PGA Tour, the two were together until 1968. Yeah. They split apart. The tour went up to Ponte Vedra. We have great relationships now with Jay Monahan and his team on board. You know, great young leader in Jay, a terrific leader in Pete Pavakwa, and a lot of collaboration, which is what I think is great and what's happening in the game right now between all of the allied organizations, understanding we all have one objective: grow the game, find a way for people to have more fun with it, and make sure that we sustain the legacy of a sport that's been around for a long time.
And parenthetically, you are a Patriot fan, but your headquarters is in South Florida. How's that working out for you?
You know what? The great part about modern technology, it's easy to be a fan wherever you are.
Yeah, you are. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm an open invitation to the first Dolphin Patriot game at home, although you'll be out in the stands, my tickets using a Patriots sweater. All right, is that a deal?
There you go.
The sweater's going to be 90 degrees, by the way.
I realize that.
Back to ultimate issues of growing the game. So first comment, as relevant as some of the news is, then we'll talk about your specific role. Two-shot penalty, and you pick it up behind the trap, and you can actually play it. Really? I mean, these are dynamic new rules that are being tested. What's your take and your organization's take on the attempt to grow the game through changing the rules?
We applaud what the USGA and the RNA have done to make, again, it's about making golf fun. Yeah. And the rules were incredibly complicated. I jokingly said in the panel, the hardest test you could take at MIT would be the golf rules test.
Absolutely. You know, everybody would fail it.
It's so hard. I think the simplification here, the putting it in layman's language that people who play the game every day can understand, is great for the game. We announced this week that we're going to allow shorts during the practice rounds at the PGA Championship and all of our championships. And again, make the game more relatable, make it more welcoming, make it more inclusive, and more people will play, because we have the great benefit of being a lifetime sport. You can play from 4 to 104, and that really is something that I think all the allies are embracing and trying to think about that lifelong path.
And similarly, all the old, and I mean it with greatest respect, curmudgeon, purist, Golden Bear, Jack Nicklaus golf course designers are now the first to advocate tee it forward. The holes, which I love, are sometimes that big, and anything to improve the game and open it to the masses, I would guess.
Well, and again, there are great traditions in the game which we want to maintain, but it is about thinking, if you go to a Topgolf and have a great experience, you're playing golf. If you go take a 30-minute lesson from a PGA professional, you're playing golf. We've got, it doesn't necessarily mean 18 holes with 4 people to be playing golf. We have to think about it in the broadest sense of engaging people in the game, and you know that is something I think all of the allied organizations are focused against.
And what do you think? So Topgolf, the whole indoor golf phenomena, it's been Japanese and everywhere for years, but you know, half of the United States you can't play for 6 months. We're here in Boston. It's going to be 20 degrees tonight. Is that part of your mandate as well? How do you feel about that?
Well, a great example, we are rebuilding the clubhouse at one of our facilities, Valhalla, where we've had great PGA Championships and Ryder Cups. And we are in the process of that. The basement is being transformed into a winter golf opportunity so that you can keep the members more engaged, keep the professionals engaging with their students. And so we recognize if a club is in somebody's hand and they're enjoying the game, that's a touch point, that's an opportunity. And we've got to have the broadest look. And so whether it's what Joe Ossel, a great PGA professional, has done with Golf Tech, indoor learning, using technology, all of that is good for the game. Everything that is getting people to play more golf and have more fun is what we need to be pushing forward.
The idea of rotating the majors, and obviously 3 of the 4 are on rotations all over the world, good for golf to expand in places you didn't before. West Coast, Erin Hills this year. I mean, there are a lot of places that you're bringing events for the first time.
Correct. And look, golf being in the Olympics is a huge deal. Not necessarily in the United States. I don't think it's going to have a dramatic change here. But if you look at the number of federations that have been formed since golf went into the Olympics, the kids who now are growing up in countries that never thought about golf, now golf winning an Olympic medal, putting it in there, the opportunity for development. I worked at the NBA early in my career when the Dream Team was formed. And David Stern's vision on that wasn't about that dream team.
Yeah.
It was about where the league is today. And you look at the nature of all of the different players from all of the various countries who now make up the NBA. That was from David's vision 25 years ago of what that Olympic opportunity would mean. I think it's the same opportunity for golf. Lots more countries, lots more growth in places where people can play the game, make it accessible, make it fun. And so for us, it really is about thinking about this on the largest global stage possible. And for the 28,000 PGA professionals, that's job opportunities anywhere around the world that you can think about.
By the way, I will tell you, day one, CCOs have the hardest job, television, hardest job in the world. So Pete Bavacqua, if you're listening, CCOs have the hardest job in the world because they're the ones that have to generate the revenue on an ongoing basis. When you say growing the game, it's also a euphemism in your world for maximizing and growing revenues. How are you doing it?
That's exactly right. Well, we're fortunate, as we said, to have great championships, and so the Ryder Cup and our partnership with NBC Sports, what we do with the PGA Championship with CBS and Turner, those are very significant revenue streams that we're very fortunate as caretakers of those events to have. And what we're then able to do is turn the revenue from those and make those programs work at the grassroots level. The education that we bring to our 28,000, the employment services and the career development, how we think about grow the game initiatives like PGA Junior League Golf. Here this weekend, just kind of by accident, we're launching the first public marketing of our Junior League program, team-based golf for kids 13 and under. We're going to have, hopefully 1,500 more kids in this market playing. We're thinking about that being, 100,000 to 250,000 kids playing team golf, having that experience, and then ultimately becoming lifelong golfers. Because I said before, this is a lifelong journey that we need to be thinking about all of those on-ramps and keep people playing.
Lifelong journey with a lot of on-ramps, and from your perspective, being the head of sponsorships for MasterCard for so long, the whole key, one of the whole keys, is to keep sponsors engaged early and happy for a long time. How's it going, and is it easier or harder to sell golf partnerships, sponsorships today than it used to be?
So obviously MasterCard had a very large portfolio that we put together, a relationship with the PGA of America back at the time. That's how I got to know many of the folks that are there today. At MasterCard, Nick Utton, who is our CMO, always used to talk about the tangible and then the intangible values of what came and how we measured the success and the marketing mix impact, along with the intangibles of our customer relationships, our banker partner relationships. And so golf is great in that way, in that it does provide tremendous consumer engagement, along with the B2B side. You've talked about the pro-ams and the things that you do. It is a unique sport in that you can play it, you can be out on the same field as those professionals and be a part of that. And for us, the ability to take it to the grassroots. Things like Junior League Golf that are touching thousands of facilities around the country. The good news for us coming off the most recent Ryder Cup, we haven't announced these yet, but we've got 3 major partners who renewed. And as you know, the renewal is the most important thing. If a partner is engaged with you, sees value and stays on, that's when you know you've got something that's working. And so our story really is fewer, deeper, make sure that we connect from the grassroots side of the game all the way to something like the Ryder Cup.
And it's interesting, we should change roles. That was the next question relative to a CCO's accountability. It's important to land sponsors, but maybe your best success is measured by how many renew and how many are happy.
That is exactly right. And how do you work with those companies, with social media and content being probably the biggest change from when I was at MasterCard to where the world is today, trying to think about how do you create ownable content opportunities, social media engagement that works for the brand, but also doesn't come across to the consumer as if you've kind of sold your soul. And so you really have to work through what is relevant, what's appropriate, what's authentic, and I think we've done a pretty good job with our partners of finding those points of engagement, making them valuable, driving more connections. I mean, the statistics off the Ryder Cup in terms of digital engagement and social engagement, 200+% over just 2 years ago or 4 years ago. And so, that whole world has changed, and I think we've done a good job of providing content and social and digital engagement for those partners that they can own and activate.
Incredibly important next set of questions, the whole digital transformation world. You're uniquely qualified because from 10 to 13, I guess, you were the digital you ran it, but you were the digital transformation guru at Sporting News. And so the issue is, how important is it to be digital today, and how do you feel about entering a world where your kids know twice as much about it than you do?
Well, I knew early on when my kids would pick up the phone or look at a television screen and want to start to swipe when they were 3 and 4. There was no such thing as changing the channel. So I think over the last 10 years, what's become really clear, and Pete talks about this a lot, as it relates to our core PGA professionals, we have to be careful that we help through technology to create deeper relationships with their customers. If you're thinking about learning the game, ultimately we believe technology is going to be a great complement to a relationship with a PGA professional. If we're not careful and we don't help to facilitate that, what we're going to end up seeing is somebody owning a corner record store, because technology taking and passing by. That absolutely is something that we wake up every day thinking about, and thankfully many PGA professionals are looking to think about all the technology, the TrackMans and the V1 video and KVest and all of the things that you can do to create data points. But ultimately, where that PGA professional is so valuable is synthesizing that and making it useful and actionable to help you improve in the game. And so for us, obviously around our big events, we think about digital and what that means to our rights fees and the distribution. But we've got a core element of what we do every day, bread and butter, the engagement between consumers and PGA professionals, that is being influenced in a big way by technology. And so spending a lot of time thinking about that, and that was a big part of the discussion today here of how do we get better and how do we kind of create that ultimate lifelong tool that allows you to kind of understand that growth path that you're on.
Let's talk about the larger media pieces as they relate to your major events, but also about life. 40% of the people in the great unwashed over there are trying to sell and create a model for their amazing product. Digital tracker, wipe your golf shoes without hands, whatever it is. And the whole world of startups depend on being embraced by credible people who want to grow their respective sports. Then you've got the dynamic of the big networks, the NBC vertically integrating, trying to offer vertically integrated experience. They may be compatible, they may be competitive. Your success is a pure vertical integrated immersion throughout. Are you willing to take in small companies, big companies? What's the mix? So
I think what we've recognized at the PGA of America is we can't pick winners in this space. There's too much change. There's we're not set up as a VC in Silicon Valley to really be able to make those bets. What's critical to us is that we have an open playing field, and that as we think about engaging with new startups and new technology, that we validate that it works and it does what it says it can do, and that we really think about that. But then ultimately, how do we provide for our PGA professionals a way that we can bring those together? And most importantly, bring it into our educational platforms, right? It's really important whether you're in a PGM university or an apprentice or an existing professional who's trying to get on-the-job education, the program we built with Golf Tech to kind of make that something that's hands-on and tangible. It's our job really to make sure that all of those great technologies that are coming in, we find a way to train our professionals how to use them, and more importantly probably, how do you translate that information to be usable and actionable by their customer? That's where we see ourselves playing, because trying to pick the winners and losers is just impossible. And for 28,000 people, that decision may be varied across the board.
Are you growing the game in certain targets more intensely than others? New England, we're here. It's a big, important part of our distribution system. You're a New Englander. the CVS on the women's side, but also the FedEx playoffs up here in Norton. How big is golf in New England? Growing it significantly?
Golf in New England, our section here, Mike Higgins, the executive director, and their entire team. Junior League Golf, they've done an amazing job with PGA Junior League Golf. What they've been able to do to get both public and private facilities engaged, such a great program. I can't believe that it took us as long to think. Put a numbered shirt on the back of a kid and put him on a team competition. All of a sudden golf is fun, it's social, and it's just taking off, and they've done an amazing job here. But I think what's interesting in terms of what we've been trying to show our professionals is at your facility, in your market, understand who the customers are that you can bring in. And what might work here in New England versus a retirement facility where baby boomers are flocking in Florida or Arizona, that's a local market.
Not a cookie cutter, clearly.
It's not a cookie cutter. We've got to make sure that everywhere along that pathway, we have the right ways to engage that customer with the experience that they're looking for.
Put Patriots Brady number 12 on the back of those jerseys up here. You're gonna be okay.
I'll tell you what, we do really well.
I'm sure. Final question about kind of the future of the game. Are we at the point now where the game is okay if Tiger doesn't come back?
Yeah, I mean, on both the women's and the men's side, the young, energetic stars that have stepped onto the scene. And look, Tiger's a tremendous player and a once-in-a-lifetime kind of phenomenon. But I think what you have now with Jordan and Rory and Jason and go on, Ricky, there's just so many great players on the men's side, and then Stacey Lewis and Lexi Thompson and the great talents that are on the LPGA side, young players that kids can identify with. I think what we have is great competition with really great players, and we've seen it, and we've saw it in the Ryder Cup this year, the kind of energy that Patrick and Rory match that we had, right? It galvanizes people. And so we don't have to rely on one individual. I think what you've seen is the Tiger impact with elite players, many more of them. Golf is cool now. I mean, that's one of the things, when we were growing up, golf wasn't necessarily a cool sport. You think about all of the Tom Brady's, Tom loves playing golf. He goes out and plays at Pebble. You think about actresses and volleyball players and women's soccer players who their second sport, Steph Curry has said, if I could have my choice, I'd rather be playing golf. But he's one of the greatest players in NBA history. So we've got that cool factor that we need to take better advantage of. But I do see that, kind of that factor and the number of athletes and celebrities and pop culture figures who embrace our game is only going to help to make us more relevant and resonate.
And you know why golf is so cool, among other things, is because you and Pete and other people are so passionate about the game and you make it cool.